welcome to another episode of Entrepreneurs in Fuego. We are surrounded by props. This is what I love about this, because we're documenting the journey of amazing entrepreneurs. This is Kristin Cetone from the home of the Buckaroo Buckeye, who is right here, my main man. This is my new prop. Why didn't I grow up with Buckaroo Buckeye? I think I would have been a much different, much better human being, I tell you right now. How you doing, Kristin?
I'm doing fine.
I love what you do. Tell us a little bit more what it is exactly that you do.
That's the main question.
Yes, ma'am.
Buckaroo Buckeye is my name, and family and literacy is my game.
My game, all right.
And it has come from a character that I created. I'm a reading specialist, and I decided that I wanted to reach parents more, because they're the first responders to their child's reading success.
Sure.
And Buckaroo is developed mainly out of a character from my upbringing, but also as a means to start a child's journey to reading success, which it begins at birth, and it starts with read aloud books and parents and others reading aloud to their children.
A couple of things. Now, when did you come up with the concept of Buckaroo Buckeye? And why Buckaroo Buckeye?
I had Buckaroo before I left the public schools. And in case for you that don't know, I come from Ohio, the Buckeye State.
The Buckeye State, sure.
And not many people know what a Buckeye is, but my father, as he was aging, he always used to ask us, do you know what a Buckeye nut is? And we respect him, roll our eyes and say, no, Dad, what's a Buckeye nut?
You're going to tell us now.
And he always responded, it's a worthless nut. And that's the premise for Buckaroo's journey, his life journey of self-discovery. And it connects, the brain looks for connections, and it connects to all of us. We're all on our life journeys of self-discovery. And he's this little tiny nut seed.
Yep.
And he's full of passions and dreams and belief in himself. And so he sets out to find his place and his purpose. And he has to avoid several bullies along the way.
There you go. Sure. You've got the snake, and you've got the scorpion, and you've got the spider.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so he rises above the bullies on his journey and finds his place. And like I said, it connects to all of us. We all have that little tiny nut seed of passions and dreams and beliefs, and properly nourished and guided by family, culture, education, of which reading is my passion and my specialty, and it is also the foundation for the whole journey, and life experiences.
Kristin, you mentioned something which kind of intrigued me, and you said from birth.
Yes. From
birth on.
Mm-hmm.
And so you would encourage somebody that it's maybe even in the womb, the parent to start reading to that.
You can start reading, but it also, there are a lot of brain development aspects to reading, and music, developing your listening skills with music, these types of things, which you're absolutely correct, that can start in the womb.
Right.
Talking, just conversation talking, where you learn speech and the patterns of your speech. And every language does that. It starts with the oral processing, the talking, and the conversation. So you can start that, of course, in the womb.
This is probably an obvious answer, but the advent of technology and our access to, the 10-second message and so forth, I feel that is kind of taken us away from the magic that it is to read, to immerse yourself in a good book, and to develop those characters in your own mind.
Right.
And I'm a voracious reader myself, so I can never stop. But how do we get our society to come back and start
to embrace
reading
that
again?
again?
To embrace that again.
Yeah. Well, that's what I try to work at now. Surprisingly, the statistics that I have read, with all the e-books, these types of digital, the majority prefer a book in their hand.
Absolutely.
And so we need to keep that alive. I think it's naturally going to stay alive, but especially for children, they need to handle that book. They need to turn the pages and, like you said, then immerse themselves in that character and those illustrations. And I don't think that's ever going to go away, but it is definitely going to be in competition with a digital version.
It's something about the tactile
Right.
aspect of just holding a book in your hands and falling asleep with the pages in your face. I mean, which all of us, I'm sure, at one point or another have experienced. Yes. I couldn't imagine myself falling asleep with a tablet in my face. You know, it's just not the same.
No.
But okay. So going back to this concept, you come up with just a very, very, very unique character that you've, since you were young, because of your growing up in the Buckeye state, you've probably been thinking about and just mull it in your brain, and then you go through your public school thing. And so at which point, Kristin, did you say, you know what, let me develop this thing. Let me make this person or this character real?
It was at the tail end of my teaching. I was a Title I reading specialist, and Title I law states that you have to expend 1% of your title monies on parent involvement, reaching out to parents. And I never was able to achieve that. And I know that's where reading success lies.
Why was that? Why weren't you able to
well,
do that?
It takes more than the 1%. Now, I did establish a family literacy night at the last school that I was at, and it was very well attended, but you had author visits, you had literacy types of games that the parents and the children could partake in, and then of course you had giveaways, books for them to take home. And it's quite involved, and it's getting the parents to buy into their role in this whole literacy pathway that their children are going to be on and that they've gone through. And reading is for everybody. So I, in my public school days, was designated to reach out to a more diverse, struggling reading sector. And that's my ultimate goal with Buckaroo, is to be able to subsidize so I can do that. And I have big, lofty dreams. But reading and reading success begins with the reading assessment. So I have connected a reading assessment with Buckaroo and his story. And I'm a firm believer, I'm not real savvy, but I'm a firm believer that technology is going to be a very important part for education moving forward. So yeah. I'm doing my reading assessment through an online web conferencing. So it's safe, it's convenient, they can do it from their own home computer, and I can see the child can see me, and they can see the documents I need them to read. So it starts there.
Kerplunk! The hard green spiky shell cracked open, and out rolled the delicate brown Buckeye nut with its tan cap. It was another beautiful fall day in Ohio. Two big eyes looked around in amazement. Wow, the world's so big. Where do I go and what can I do? The little nut wondered. This is such a phenomenal book. And I tell you, I mean, I'm going to maybe adopt a couple of kids this weekend.
Oh,
maybe,
I hope so.
Maybe my university graduate kids maybe come back this weekend, and I'll read the little Buckaroo Buckeye to them, just for fun. Maybe I'll read it for myself too.
Well, I think you will find connections. It was written for like 4 to 8 years of age, but I have found adults connecting with the message in it. You know, so much today in life is based on like the size of maybe your physical prowess or the size of your celebrity. And Buckaroo, being a tiny nut seed, is reflecting and making you realize that it's not size that counts. And hopefully, you want to inspire, you want to capture a child's attention, and of course, unique, cute characters, will grab their attention, but you also want to grab the parents' attention.
Absolutely. And so a couple of questions. I remember I used to read to my kid what the wild things are over and over and over and over again, where I'm like, okay, what are we reading tonight? Where the wild things are. Okay, all right, I know.
So you eventually recited where the wild things are.
Pretty much.
Yes.
Pretty much. Are we going to
that's
see the stories of, or the journey of Buckaroo Buckeye, perhaps in a second book
Installment,
or installment? I'm sure you're working on it already.
Well, what would a Buckeye tree do? It drops more Buckeyes, right?
Yeah, I was going to drop more nuts.
There's many stories. I have 3 stories that I'm combining into a trilogy. Again, they are dedicated to strong women from my family line. But you can go on and on and on, which is what I hope. And I eventually would love other people's stories to come in, you know?
Kristen, I can see sequels, and I can see prequels, and I can see all sorts of things happening, like the Star Wars movies and everything else. But this is such a fascinating thing, and the work that you're doing, I think, is incredibly commendable, because reading is important. That's where it starts, right? That's where it starts.
That's where it lands.
And it's such an epidemic right now that we see a lot of teenagers not at the reading level where they should be. That's unacceptable.
And it's sad.
Not in our
because
country.
they're capable of it, and you know the way the system is set up, they kind of tend to get left behind, and then they lose their self-esteem. And I've worked with Mesa juvenile detainees before, and one in particular that when I started working with him, he screened at a first grade 9-month level, and he was 17 and a half years old.
Oh my gosh.
And he told me, the first thing he told me is, I'm stupid. You know, I can't do anything, I can't read. And I said, well, you stick with me for a while and then we'll reassess this. And I was fortunate, or unfortunate, shall we say, he was remanded to remain incarcerated until he was 18 by the judge. So I said, well, let's do something positive with this time. And by the time he was ready to be released, his word call had gone to an 8th grade level. And he had told me one day he was pacing when I came in, and he said, I'm tripping. I went, ooh, where do I go with this? And I said, well, you know, because I like to let him talk. Sometimes he just wouldn't talk. And I said, well, what are you tripping about? And if he had been on good behavior, he was allowed sometimes to go with the staff when they did a food run at lunch. Mm-hmm. And he had gone the previous day on a food run, and he said, I'm tripping because I went to Burger King yesterday and I could read the signs for the first time, you know. And I could see a difference just in his posture and his whole body tone, that he was finally proud.
It gave him confidence.
It raised his self-esteem. Yeah,
the self-esteem.
Because he had a really turbulent life.
And I am sure you have just phenomenal stories like this to tell, because you know there's got to be a personal achievement when you see this progress, and it's probably a very immediate progress too, and with this type of system that you have. So
and that progress is possible. That's the hope. I want to give them the belief that they too can do it. You know, so
I'm going to tell you my favorite book.
Okay.
Ever.
All right.
And I've read it like, I don't know, 1,000,000 times. The Count of Monte Cristo.
Oh, okay. What was your favorite children's book?
You know, I read a lot of pirate books, and when I was younger, and I can't pinpoint, because growing up in South America, we didn't have the Dr. Seuss things or anything like that. So, but it was a lot of pirate books.
Did you have a certain character that was developed down in the?
Not really. I think I developed more of an appetite for reading in my latter years, and then I just picked up fiction novels, and I love Nelson DeMille. It's one of my favorites. But then going back to the classics, Alexandre Dumas, it's probably one of my favorites of all time.
Well, it's excellent, and obviously he had a good foundation, a good reading development.
Yes, I did. Yes.
And gave you that confidence, to pick those up in later life.
You and I could be here forever.
We could talk reading for on and on. Yes.
We're going to follow the adventures of Buckaroo Buckeye
Please.
again and again and again, in the sequels and prequels to come.
Yep.
It'll be so much fun. This is phenomenal. Thank you, Kristin. Thank you once again. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Being here. With that, we're out.